Sanguinius. He takes another step. Ahead, the severed corridor ends in a doorway. Brother. The doorway stands open. Its frame is woven from scrimshawed human bone. He steps through it and finds himself in a narrow tunnel. It is barely wide enough for him to move along it, the sheer black walls tight on either hand. He looks up and sees that the walls rise higher and higher above him. It's no tunnel. It's a slender crevasse, a long, narrow fissure split between towering cliffs. He starts to advance. Again, the whispers. Sanguinius. The floor is wet, black rock, and is utterly flat, as though it has been smoothed by centuries of passage. Indeed, it almost feels as if this slight pathway has been worn down through the cliffs by eons of repeated single-file procession, uncountable feet making the same lone journey he is making, gradually eroding this seam. Impossibly high above him, he can see the sky, a narrow river of night sky and stars beyond the cliff tops that mirrors the path he treads. At last, he steps free into the open beyond. The Lupal court is a vast space of fluted columns, with arches springing from the imposts to create a soaring ribbed ceiling. The floor is polished stone. The scale of the court is immense and humbling, an architecture designed to create an artificial infinite. Sanguinius is just one tiny mote of gold and white in an impossible, soaring cathedral of obsidian and black marble. Such a chamber could not and should not exist on the vengeful spirit. The light here, viscous and heavy, is a dull crimson glow. Welcome, brother. At last. He thinks for a moment that the room itself has spoken, but part of it moves. Part of the stupendous Gothic grandeur turns to look upon him. Horus VS smiles. Sanguinius's breath catches in his throat. His brother's metanoia is difficult to believe. Horus is the most forbidding thing, a monolith of auramite-edged black plate. The power bestowed upon him seems to magnify his physical presence like some foul and fantastic creature of myth. He is clad in the serpent's scales, the artificed cataphracti wargear handcrafted for him. He looms like a bestial demigod, bred to fight the Titanomachy that raged before the first sun was lit. The War Master's right hand is a world-cracking claw. His left casually clutches a mace the size of a young oak that could hammer heaven open. The pelt of a wolf, one so big its jaws could swallow the moon, drapes across his shoulders like dirty snow across alpine peaks. The alphabets of chaos inscribe his gold and ebon armor, throbbing with eldritch heat. A single eye adorns his steep, thick-plated torso, unblinking, gazing with poisonous regard. Power drips from him like water, spilling from the edges of his plate and from the pipes and cables that sustain him and connect him to his armor as one living whole. It splashes and fizzles on the ground around his feet in cascades of voltaic sparks and incandescent rage. His head, red-lit, is framed by the oversized gorget, collar and girdwork of his mantle plating. Tubes and fiber bundles plug his shaven scalp and drape across his cranium like braids of hair. His face. Even in the cast of the bloodlight, his face is the face Sanguinius remembers. His smile is the smile Sanguinius loved. Brother, Horus says. Each syllable burdens the air, making it shudder to bear the weight. My brother. My dear brother. I waited for you for so long. You have come, as I hoped you would. I have missed you. You hoped I would come? Asked Sanguinius. His words, strong and clear, sound thin and insubstantial after the crushed mass density of Horus's voice. You knew I would come. You were ever your own soul, dear brother, Lupal replies. I could not trust in fate, or destiny, or even chance to bring you here. It had to be your choice. My heart is full that this is the choice you made. And my heart is full to see you again, Sanguinius replies. Despite all that has taken place, I have mourned the loss of my brother Horus. I would not have let this monstrous war end without seeing you, with my own eyes, one last time. Monstrous it is, Horus murmurs. And end it must. I abhor it, and wish it to be finished. But, my brother, this does not have to be the last time we stand face to face. I think it must, says Sanguinius. Why so? You are not the brother I remember. You are changed. The warp is upon you, Horus, and I fight terror just to look upon you. No need. Oh, my brother, no need for fear. The warp is indeed upon me, and within me, because all things change. You must know this. You of all people. You have seen it. You know it. In that, we are alike. Lupal pauses, the echo of his last words rolling away to the edges of the chamber like discarded thunder. We always have been, he says. Slowly he raises his left fist and points the head of the huge mace towards the 5 gigantic thrones set against the towering rear wall of the court. One is for you, he says. There will be a coronation. I have dreamed of this. Join me. It's too late, brother, Sanguinius replies. Nothing is too late, says Horus. I decide what is and is not, and even time obeys me. Make a wise choice, my dear brother. I have longed for your company. This is your offer? This is my offer. Please, accept it. It is why I have waited for you. It is why I have chosen to meet with you. He raises his right hand. The scythe talons of his power claw gently beckon. Join me. Sanguinius turns his left side towards his brother. He bows his head, eyes closed for a second, and when he raises it again, the blade in carmine comes up with it into a raised proffer above his right shoulder. He opens his eyes and meets Horus's gaze unblinking. And this is why I have chosen to meet with you, he answers. To fight me? To end you? But you will die, says Horus. Everyone dies, brother, Sanguinius replies. Not me. This is your decision? Yes, says Sanguinius. Horus stares at him. A single tear wells from his eye and trickles down his cheek. Pity, he says. Words exhausted, only deeds remain. Sanguinius keeps his pose, sword raised, hand extended, as implacable as the golden effigies that fill the endless hallways of his father's palace. His gaze is equally unwavering. He holds and returns his brother's stare. He does not blink, though to look into the eyes of Horus is to look into plunging chasms of night. There is nothing there. No pity, no hope, no mercy, not even the hint of intellect. The tear on Horus's cheek seems an anomaly, for there is no evidence of the emotion that produced it. The Lupercal's eyes are fathomless black, the dead eyes of an apex predator, rising silently from the ocean's depth with jaws agape, or watching from savannah's scrub, about to pounce. The look alone transfixes, for, like the mightiest carnivore hunters, the flat regard is as much a weapon as talons. What teeth do to flesh, these eyes do to the psyche. Sanguinius is not transfixed. Fear fills him to the top of the throat, enough to make him retch, but he holds his pose to declare his defiance. It is a warning. Horus Lupercal does not heed it. His eyes remain dead, unblemished by the glint of sentience. He makes the first move, a single step forwards, as slow and ineluctable as tectonic drift. He lets the shaft of the great maul in his left hand slip down a little way, until he is gripping it by the ferrule for maximum leverage. A second step. The infinite architecture of the Lupercal court shivers at the tread. And Sanguinius is no longer still. His legs flex as his great wings unfold, an act that takes less time than a blink. He is aloft, a golden blur that sweeps upwards, then down and across the black-scaled mass of his monstrous brother. His sword's first strike tears across Lupercal's chest plating in a ripple of distorting shield energy. His second lashes Lupercal's left pauldron as he skims across it. His third rakes Lupercal's shoulders and back in a spray of sparks. Horus reacts. The maul rises and swings to swat his brother out of the air. The force of the swing is so great there is a soaring crack of air displacement. Despite its thunderclap, the maul finds nothing. Sanguinius has banked full circle, and then Carmine rips Lupercal's right hip, and then again, full force into the breast guard. The talon of Horus rakes and snaps with enough force to crush the hull of a tank. The maul swings, bruising the air with the crimson trail of the bloodlight fizzing from its head. Neither connects. Sanguinius, wings scything, is inside his brother's guard again, face to face, 6 meters off the deck, driving sword strokes into his chest and face. 1, 2, 3! Each strike deflects from reactive power shielding. Each strike makes Lupercal's shield generators howl as they struggle to maintain protective integrity. Each strike causes the shimmering ghost of the defensive field to quiver and coruscate across his plastron and carapace. The talons of the lightning claw close again. The slam of a bear trap. Sanguinius is already gone, soaring vertically like a launching missile, high into the air above his brother. Under the arching ribs of the lofty ceiling, he turns, inverts, and dives, a descending eagle. Impact! And Carmine strikes the raised shoulder plating that houses the suit's reactor. Sparks gout, more than sparks, superheated specks of armor plate and hammer scale. There is a raw metal gouge left in the hunched backplate of the serpent scales. The mace head rips the air. Sanguinius is beneath it, rolling into an unloaded extension that carries him away parallel to the deck, less than 2 meters up. He banks around a column and sweeps back into strike range at an oblique angle, climbing slightly to eye level, then diving at the last to deliver a passing strike into Lupercal's left thigh. He loops hard behind his brother's back and lands a second blow to the reactor plating, driving in Carmine two-handed. The talon clashes at him. He evades, but does not pull back. They are face to face again for a millisecond. Enough time for Carmine to slash the gorget and crackling face shielding. The mace descends. It strikes not brother but floor, crazing the deck like a bullet hole in a mirror, cracks spidering out from the molten point of impact. Horus Lupercal, despite his greater bulk, is not slow. His every step, movement, swing and strike is bullet fast, the lethal blink of a lasbolt. Faster than any Astartesian reaction, faster than any Custodes reflex, faster than any Primarch. Except one. Sanguinius is making him seem ponderous, heavy and cumbersome. Sanguinius is so fleet, he is a golden ray of light, a darting glimmer. He is outmatched on almost every level, so he draws on what advantages he holds: speed, agility, a peerless blade, immeasurable courage, and above all else, flight. He forces the conflict into 3 dimensions, using the air and the space, rejecting the constraints of flat plane combat. To stay on his feet, on the deck, and square off against his brother like 2 Astartes in a practice cage would be to invite a duel he cannot win. It is an eagle against a bear, a raven on a wolf, a bull dancer vaulting an auroch, lightning around a mountain, dazzle in darkness. He is relentless, circling, swooping, climbing, stooping, coming at his brother from every angle to deliver a savage blow before rolling and banking out of death's reach. He wheels, feinting right to evade the talon, dragging the full length of Encarmine's edge across Horus's right pauldron with a grating squeal. Embers flutter, broken scales rain onto the deck. Horus brings them all round in a cataclysmic swing that almost catches the beating wings as they pass him. Sanguinius darts away, then swoops back, suspending like a hummingbird for long enough to gouge his blade into Horus's waist, then veers away as the maul comes at him. The maul's head strikes the floor again, this time with enough force to split and scatter the flagstones in a long fault line that exposes the underdeck spars. The tumbling slabs and buckling deck plates chase after Sanguinius like an opening crevasse. Sanguinius loops and lands, square and true on his feet, just beyond the end of the long fracture in the floor. He looks back at his brother along the line of broken, displaced and jumbled flagstones 20 meters away. He turns his left side towards Horus. He raises the blade Encarmine in a proffer above his right shoulder. He extends his left hand, ready. He meets Horus's gaze unblinking. "You lack, brother." He's taunting you. He's mocking you. You don't rise to it, but honestly, it wounds you a little. You thought he was better than that. You thought, in fact, that he was perfect. This is disappointing. You lack, that's what he said. Clearly all evidence to the contrary. His defiance, you can understand. Sanguinius still thinks he's fighting the good fight on the right side of history. He hasn't fully grasped the nature of this situation. But the taunting, that's beneath him. It's base impudence, and it does not become him. Of course, he's only doing it because he's scared. You can't blame him for that. If your positions were reversed, you'd be scared too. What use is his bravado? He can't provoke you. He can't goad you into becoming anything that you are not already. You lack nothing. The taunting just makes him seem juvenile, and you don't want to think of him that way. He's Sanguinius. You've always loved him. You want to remember him as a paragon of virtue, not as some... Except the bravado's not for you at all, is it? It's for him. You see it now. He's never had to act brave in his life. You've always thought of him as naturally brave, the bravest soul you've ever known. But it's not the case. When you're as powerful as Sanguinius, you're afraid of nothing, and bravery is easy. Everything else he's ever faced, he's faced without fear. But he's having to act now, and he's not very good at it. He's never had to pretend his courage before. Don't, you say very gently. You don't want to see a life as glorious as his end in humiliation. But he mistakes your remark. He thinks he's getting to you. He comes at you again, eyes bright, sword brighter. You sidestep. His blade scrapes your ribs. He arcs up and away. It's instructive, actually. For him to behave this way, tells you a great deal about what you've become. For the peerless Sanguinius to show fear, well, that says a lot. Will the others be the same, you wonder, when their turns come? Will your father's mask fall too? Sparks dance. He has passed you on the left side, raking with his sword. He comes within an inch of your grasp. These are huge risks he's taking. He really is tremendously courageous, even if it is an act. In fact, what is courage except an act? Courage isn't a passive quality. Whether instinctive or forced, it's the condition of acting in the face of danger. Well, there is danger here, so it doesn't matter if his courage is genuine or imitation. He is resolved to make a fight of it. He's determined to show no fear or back down in the face of insuperable odds. Back in the day, you adored him because you thought him fearlessly brave. But it was effortless back then. To see him now, fighting on despite his mortal dread of you, you understand he has become fearfully brave. That is impressive. It makes you love him a little more. You hear the angel murmur, a single wretched gasp. Manus! It's the only sound he's uttered since you began to kill him. You stand behind him. You give him a moment to appreciate the reunion, and to realize what it signifies. Until we meet again. That's long enough. Who lacks now, brother? You ask. He tries to turn over and face you. You grasp him by that broken ankle and drag him out behind you. He slides backwards on his belly, hands raking and pawing at the bloody flagstones to resist, but there is nothing to grip. He leaves a long smear of blood on the floor behind him. It isn't supposed to end like this. Nevertheless, it does.
OnlyFans could be your fitness and health hub, a place for you to share your intimate relationship issues, get guidance, solutions, and more. My own physique updates with educational info each time.